Welcome to We Are Something Else, episode 105. While my guitar gently weeps. And we're back. CB, welcome back, brother.
Yo,
fellas. CB, man, look, he held down the show last week for you.
y'all
While we,
did.
were, while, while we were going through the storm. But look, hey, welcome back, brother. Good to see you. Good to have all three of us back in the house tonight to celebrate just music. More importantly, guitarist. But what's good with you? What's good, bro?
Ain't nothing, man. Had a exceptional workout today. Hitting those bands a little, the band's a little different. But nah, man. You know what? This week has been kind of up and down. So it was good to get a good workout in, a different one. And then glad to be on here today. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. CB was good, bro.
Um, no technical difficulties this week. Not sitting in my basement by candlelight like I was telling y'all. Um, like literally, I want to say it was like from 9 to midnight. We just didn't have power, so I was like, even if I got on my phone and used up, the rest of my battery life, I would be in the dark. So, wouldn't really serve the purpose. But glad to be able to join you guys again. And since I missed last week, I got some heat for the soul.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. Yeah, you weren't here last week and it was kind of just irony and everything, the storm and then, the news that we shared. I wanted to give you an opportunity on camera to kind of share your thoughts about the passing of Hardy.
Man, dude, like we were talking about last week, once we found out, like it just hits different, man. Because you talk about where their food truck was located in Bethesda was just a few blocks from where we have our 9 to 5. So it was a regular thing for us on a Friday when the weather was nice for us to be like, yo, we're gonna make a run to the food truck. Like, what do y'all want us to bring you back?
Right.
And just being able to hang out with the guy a little bit and being able to have him and his wife on the podcast, man, like that for us. I remember being so excited that we were going to have them as guests, so it just hit real hard, man. And last week, literally, you touched on it on the show, but the just the way that the world works, man, the fact that my power went out because the storm was so bad. And I remember the episode that we had with them, it was also storming terribly.
Yep.
And, they were having connection issues. We made the show work and, we were just excited to have them on. And, Hardy's Barbecue is one of our spots. So, I mean, heart goes out to the family. Hoping that anyone that can donate to the GoFundMe, gives a little bit. Because that's just so tough, man. Like, he was still young. You know what I mean? Like
49.
It's just crazy. So, it's one of those things. Like he was younger than my pops. So for all of us that still got our dads around and everything, man, like you gotta spend that time when you can, because you just never know, bro.
Absolutely. Love you, pops, for chiming in. Welcome back too. He's been gone for a couple weeks out of town, but yeah, man, I think you touched on it, and we won't, bring the episode down too much. But I want to express my gratitude because we were early into the Black Business series, and we still were trying to find our legs, and just one little simple, DM, and they were like, absolutely, we'll do it. And then even with the storm, they powered through, getting through that them being on the cell phone and losing connection a couple of times and still frames. So, but fellas, yeah, my week was good. Thursday again, and I'm looking forward to the weekend ahead. Like 4th of July was weird. I knew everybody in their mamas was gonna be back out and living life again. I mean, according to all your local governments, they want you back out there doing that. But it's just I'm not ready. For a year, you told me to sit still and not to do this, and then all of a sudden, bam, no, we want you to do it. Nah, I'm not. I'm good. So I just kept it close to home, and I still got my bubble family that that we hang out with. But that's really about it, man. Did y'all do anything special?
We
Nope.
had some family around, you know.
Gotcha.
When you got we got like two nieces now in the fam between my cousin and obviously my sister. So it was an opportunity really for that family to get together, and that was a good time. But we weren't out crazy. We weren't doing anything. It was all like we knew what the deal was with everyone that was at the house.
Nah, man, was good, bro.
See, I saw Pop saying that.
I
It made
saw
me
that.
laugh. Like we're talking about Hardee's, and he says that. It still made me laugh.
Yeah. All right, so fellas, let's get to it. Let's start with racist Eddie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have been up on this story. And first, look at these pictures. I don't know if the picture on the far left of the guy in the green, I can't think of the Baby Yoda, as everybody's saying that character's name, in the green shirt, is the same guy that you see in cuffs surrounded by cops. We're talking about cell phone pictures compared to perfectly good like snap photos. But there's racist Eddie right there. So racist Eddie is famous this week for harassing all his neighbors, especially I think it was a black couple. It doesn't matter what couple he was harassing, but there was one guy who didn't even live in the neighborhood, a black guy, who stood up for the neighbors that were being harassed by this guy. And the video picks up where he's dropping all kind of N-bombs and racial slurs, and he just, that big and bad, definitely wearing his white privilege badge, of honor right there across his chest. And then in the video, the cop shows up. Oh, he knows the cops, and he's like talking to him like, it's just another day in Mayberry, that kind of thing, right? And the guy even goes to give his address on while he's being recorded, and tells the people, "Show up at my house. I dare you." Well, that's exactly what the hell they did, because his house, I'm assuming, once the video broke, his house was surrounded by, as he calls it, a bunch of niggas, right? And they were just sitting there waiting for this guy to go down. He did get arrested for harassment and bias intimidation. So let's go around the horn and let's see how you guys feel about racist Eddie.
Yeah, another week, another character from the same. They shop at the same warehouse. They wear the same shoes. They go to the same barbershop. All these motherfuckers look the same, and like, I mean, dude, the audacity, like, it's just wild, bro. It's one of those things where, yeah, he got arrested. That's as we're talking about by like the letter of the law. That's probably how it should go down. This motherfucker needs his ass beat, really. Right. Like
optics. No optics.
Like that's just how I feel about all this shit. Like anybody who carries any kind of racist bone in their body, like that's just where I'm at this point, man. Like talking it out, these people don't want to hear it in a lot of cases, you know what I mean? So this kind of stuff, it really just pisses me off, because it's like, dude, you're literally the problem. So, it's one of those things where I hope he gets, I just hope in the long run he gets what he deserves, because I mean, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. And I think that the whole cops and cuffs thing was like kind of a dog and pony show,
right?
Just to, we got to do this kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I mean, what he's charged with, I'm assuming, is not going to be.
Because where was he going to go? Like, how was he going to leave his house? He invited all those friends over. Like, where was he going to go?
To that barbecue we were just talking about before.
Yeah. He needed that special escort just to get out of the house. Right. So.
Yeah. E, you look like you got something to say.
No, I mean, it's it's one of those things where it's like, they don't want to be famous until they become famous. You know what I mean? They don't, they're quick to think that cell phone won't go, that video won't get somewhere to where you got, hundreds of people showing up at your door that you so-called, ask for us to come. You ask and we'll come. You know what I'm saying? Like at this point, I think the landscape is different, because before it was, you know, may not necessarily say a protest. It'd just be like somebody saying like that cat over there is racist, right? Like that door, that location, this is where he lives. Now it's just like the fact that you get a crowd of people and of all races that are calling out this person. I think he was like, first of all, whatever he was drinking, that Coors Light, Bud Light, whatever it was, he came down off of that because again, he definitely don't look like the same person. You can tell that he looked like he shaved before he's getting ready to go to jail because they probably called him and told him they probably coming to pick you up. So, at the end of the day, he's a clown. You know what I'm saying? If he's definitely isolated, he's not in a holding cell with the bunch. I forgot where was this at though? What state or what city?
I think it
New
was in
Jersey.
Philly.
Mount
Yeah, it
Laurel,
was.
New Jersey.
Yeah, out that area. Yeah.
So we already know that he is not in where. Let's just get that out the way. They cleared out a whole cell just for himself. He didn't go into a holding cell where they got the rest of the cats that got picked up in that same hour that showed up at the same jail. He didn't get put in that same position because he would have got mollywopped, and that picture would have looked different than what he got in that you got right there. But
I mean, and it's these guys. And we every week is somebody different. It's the Karens, and it's the Eddies, and it seems like they always test. They know who to test because at the end of the day, and I'm wishing nothing on nobody, but at the end of the day, they get to walk away, right? Not carried away, however, but so they know who to test, and it's just at a certain point, it's this is racist Eddie who was famous on the internet this week for harassing his neighbors. This guy right here, and I swear, the guy in the green shirt on the far right does not look like what's in that mugshot. And this is I don't know when the video was taken, so maybe he put on some pounds and shaved. But hey, look, it's not one of those they all look alike kind of things. The pictures look a little weird to me. Anyways, moving on. Nicole Hannah Jones. Now, CB brought this story to me, and I looked into it, and this is a really this story is interesting because Nicole Hannah Jones is, I believe, she's an editor. I think her go ahead, CB.
She's like like an award-winning journalist type.
Journalist, that's it. Journalist, award-winning journalist, and she was offered a job at UNC to be a professor, right?
She's a graduate. She's an alumnus of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Like that's where she's from, and she was going for tenure, which we know in the realm of faculty and that kind of a thing. Like that's a big deal.
Right.
And are you going to go into?
Yeah, and so she wanted tenure, and it took them a while to give it to her. Like she had to go in front of the board, and it had to be, a unanimous decision. And I think it was Pulitzer Prize winner.
I'm just downplaying it, no big deal.
And I had some of that in my notes. I don't have the correct notes on me.
And Roy was right. 1619 Project.
She is accomplished. She's very accomplished. And again, she won a tenure with UNC Chapel Hill, and they pussyfooted around and offered it to her late, right? And then so at that point, she turns it down, and she goes to Howard. And now she will be teaching at Howard, which again, I think HBCUs need the love and the spotlight. We've talked about them a couple times for just the different things as far as athletes, and now finally like award-winning Pulitzer Prize winners are turning down these big name schools to go to HBCUs. It
was a good story. The question that I have, not to play the role, is we've seen this before. There's a couple of other educators, kind of big name people that have decided to take their, if you will, lack of better terms, their talents to HBCUs, right? I'm still wondering, and I saw this recently because like Morgan State and a few other colleges had just won a major lawsuit in regards to the state as far as funding and things of that nature, universities. But you know, my thing is, you know, it always comes back to, you know, the money, and the reason why I say that is, you know, we have to, you know, you have to get those teachers that really care to be educator at the school that they want to, you know, that they're teaching at, right? I think you come across a couple of them that are just there. This is where I've been forever. I'm waiting for a tenure, so then you can't really, you know, tell me what to do type deal. You know, I can't get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? But hopefully the turn of more people being aware of why not send our own resources back to where they were initially at anyway, right? You know, people would be like, "Oh, I went to Howard," and then they'd be like, "Then I took my talents over to Cornell or you know or Drexel or you know." And you're like, "What? Where are we really at with this?" You know what I'm saying? So, um, I think that in itself is a good story that will help start to now flood the market of, you know, who the real educators are that are sitting at these HBCUs.
Yeah.
This, I mean, the whole like build up to this is kind of nuts because I can't remember what source I was reading this in, but basically comes down to she was saying, or someone was saying, that it was basically a big money donor that was blocking her tenure. Like that's what it was at UNC. Like, so it's I think, you know, and the university literally came out and said like they were like this was a racist thing. Like that there's no way about it. You know, they were because it was in like their congratulations to her, I guess. So like, you know, we're, for a lack of a better term, bummed out that she didn't accept our offer because, you know, they did offer it to her, whatever, but they did, you know, admit their fault, you know, for that decision and how it came about. So, you know, I really just hope that in the long run, you know, she continues to have a big impact, and this is, you know, another win. We've been talking about the HBCUs. Like, hopefully, this is, you know, just another win for them in general. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. All right. That's the end of Let's Rap. I wanted to had to keep it short this week. You get a racist and you get an educated black woman. There you go. It's because we got a lot to dive into tonight. So tonight we are talking about top 5 guitarists of all time. Yep. Top 5 guitarists of all time. With some honorable mentions. And I think that so let's get to it. I mean, fellas, this was a tough assignment. Top 5 guitarists of all time, because everybody, the bar is different for everybody else, for all of us, right? Or for people in general. You know,
Yep.
what falls under good guitarist? Is it the way you play? Is it writing the music? Is it, you know, what have you done to be considered now top 5, or just in people's elite standings anyway, right? And I knew when I came up with this there'd be a couple of repeats, which is fine, but we were supposed to rank them, so I'm interested to see kind of where people fall on people's charts, right? Let's get through some of these comments right here. Hey, Pops, the boots are loose. Quintuple needs to have a conversation with you, Pops. There you go. Yeah, just have a conversation with you. This is Pops 5 right here. Okay. Hendrix, Gary. Okay. And look,
That's a great 5.
is there really a wrong answer for this? So no, this is a good segue. Pops gave me his, so here's mom's right here. What's her name? Chuck. So her top 5 or her honorable mentions. We got Robert White, Dennis Coffey, Paul Warren, Eddie Hazel, Ernie Isley. Now Robert White was one of the Funk brothers for Motown. They did play a lot of music for Motown, if not all of it. Dennis Coffey was also a Funk brother. It probably has the same amount of hits or playing as Robert Wright. Eddie Hazel was with Funkadelic. that whole George Clinton movement and Bootsy Collins. If you've ever heard any of their music, I mean, that's the guy. Or it also could be Paul Warren. Paul Warren also did play. He was a session guitarist for Funkadelic as well. Um, and then he had. My mom wanted me to make sure I mentioned this. One of his biggest hits was "Get Off Your Ass and Jam." So if you never heard it, check it out. And Ernie Osley. If you haven't watched the verses over the summer, we got the Osleys versus Earth, Wind, and Fire. Ernie Osley played, guitar for the Osley Brothers, but he also learned from Jimi Hendrix. So when you hear Ernie play, you get a lot of that Jimmy in there too, maybe with a little bit of mix in there because of just the different styles of music they Ozzy Brothers have done throughout the years. And again, not a bad list. It makes you do your homework because if you never heard a couple of these people, like, well, now I need to go back and figure out, oh, that's that person right there. That's that person. So honorable mentions. Let's start with that because again, we know the top five is hard, and it's easy to pick the people you left out. I'll start with my honorable mentions because I feel like I'm always going last. Whatever. I'll start first with my honorable mentions. So I left it at 6. So my honorable mentions, starting at the top left, we've got Eddie Van Halen. Middle is Lenny Kravitz, and I debate. We'll get to that. I debated if I wanted to put Lenny on honorable mentions. There's Chuck Berry, far right to top. Now bottom left is Ernie Osley, BB King in the middle, and Clapton, slow hand on the bottom right. These are just my honorable mentions, right? And I will say I debated Lenny because, and I was talking to my mom before the show. There's not one major like solo effort that I've heard from Lenny that make me that I knew he wasn't top 5, but I knew I put him in because he did write and play on a lot of people's stuff too. So, I mean Eddie, and we just talked about Ernie, BB King with Lucille, Clapton. Clapton can play a main guitar if you ever heard a lot of Clapton's earlier stuff, and then even when he switched to his acoustic set for the Unplugged. And then we know what Chuck Berry did for rock and roll, right? BB King, there you go. And I figured wrote a song about it in living color. Even had the skit. And CB, we'll do your honorable mentions.
Man, I was telling you, man, this was so tough because when you if you go back, like VH1's done it a million times, every guitar magazine out there has done it. When they're talking about like the greatest guitarists of all time, any list, basically any name that we're going to bring up in this show tonight is going to be on that list somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, so we've got Steve Vai, Stevie Ray Vaughan, like Pops had mentioned. Slash is one of my guys. You can't Santana, in terms of what he's been able to do. Mm-hmm. Chuck Berry and man Les Paul. When you got a guitar, like the guitar named after you, that's kind of a big deal. So any of these guys could have been actually in my 5. But this was just. I hate the fact that you even tried to make me rank them because
that's the tough part. That's look, hey, we'll get through it. So let's just get through this because this is gonna be an interesting conversation. So I'll lead off unless anybody else wants to lead off.
Hold on before you get there because I didn't drop you my honorable mentions only because I felt like the class was definitely gonna be. I mean, it's almost like a wash, right? Everything that you throw in there is just you're gonna find somebody in there. I was looking even more to. So I thought my honorable mention that I would have definitely. So I put Ernie in there only because it came off of how it was, right? But I put New Age, thinking of like how it's coming through, and I was thinking Raphael Sadiq.
Okay. Raphael.
You know what I'm saying? And then there was this other cat that he's actually in jazz, right? But he had like transitioned from the piano too, but he can play both. So it's like 50-50 where I wouldn't give him a straight guitarist, but like artist wise, like I feel like he gets in his bag more on the guitar than he does on the piano. So But I was thinking just new school that I would have definitely add Raphael Sadiq to that because
Yeah, no, Ralph,
his
you're strong. I mean, you
yeah
can't. It's your list. You can't go wrong. But I just know with the honorable mentions that people that we mentioned for honorable mention, like these people didn't make your top five. So who are in the top five?
right.
So does anybody legit? Does anybody want to lead off? If not, I will go first. All right, we'll go
You did
popcorn.
this to us, bro.
I know.
Right. So
So this is
you
my
do this.
okay. So my top five coming in at five. Um, and I'm glad that no one there's some repeats there, then there's some that aren't repeats. My number five, my fifth best guitarist of all time is gonna be John Mayer. And you know, regardless of the personal or some of the stupid stuff that he said, this guy can play. I've seen him live, and I know when he first began, he was acoustic. He got me with that. But then when the guy proved that he can play the electric guitar just as good, and I was like, hands down, I knew he was in the top five. I just didn't know where I was going to rank him amongst the others. But John Mayer definitely fifth, and I think that, and like some of the standards too is, if you got to hit that really, and you've seen guitar players hit that really weird like solo like funk face, like stink face, and it just doesn't make any sense, and it just yeah, that ties into a lot of my top five too. But yeah, I got John Mayer at five. Any comments about this one?
I knew you would. Um, he's your guy. But also one thing that I think that John Mayer needs to be commended um, on top of him being a very talented guitar player, is that he's got one of the baddest lists of all time in terms of the women he's dated. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And he doesn't make my list of guitarists, but he might make my list for those types of dudes.
Perfect list. E, you got anything?
I wouldn't. I I think early on, like I was definitely digging it, but I feel like I kind of moved away from it as he moved away from our culture of music, right? And the reason why I say that is because when he and Kanye kind of aligned, and then he aligned with some others, and he aligned with some others, then he kind of went like straight dormant, and it was like he kind of went like I gotta carve another lane for myself. I wanted the old John Mayer with that wanted to be around us, aka like Dave Chappelle at the restaurant, John.
Right.
Look, let me tell you, I've seen this guy live at least 4 times. He plays a different guitar every song. I mean, a slew of guitar. I mean, that might have to go into it too. Like his list of like his guitars are dope. But anyways, up next, let's see. Let me set you up here, CD. Go for it.
So, assuming we're following the list, and I'm hoping I'm getting this order right. I think I have BB King on there to talk about first, and it's hard to talk about modern day like guitarists without them being influenced to some degree by BB King. He's a legend. He made it look so easy. Like, if you watch videos of this man, like, it looks like he's not even trying. It's so smooth, and he's one of those guys that just has such a lasting impact on guitarists in general that he was a surefire entry on my list. So yeah, couldn't go. I felt like couldn't go wrong with the king of the king.
Yeah, I agree. BB is think blues. You think Lucille again. You think
Yep.
it's BB. So yeah, and he was on my honorable mention. So there's your first repeat right there. Anything? E?
Nah, can you argue that at all? No,
Okay.
can't argue that.
E, who you got number five?
If I believe correct, I think I had my guy Flea at number five. Flea looks like, for me, when Flea plays guitar, he's strictly about like he's into like that moment, right? He's into that. He's into his music that he's created for himself, right? And I feel like Flea's a little under, like for it to be that it's always the lead singer gets the certain type of flair, that Flea figured out that I'm dope by the way that I play this music, right? Because granted, the whole squad was kind of crazy, right? But if you think about it, Flea stood out because I feel like he could literally kind of balance between the two. You know what I'm saying? And I think his unique way of the way that he started to slap bass with the type of genre of music that they were playing, but it seemed like it could always bridge into something else. That's why I dig Flea, because he played as if like I can play this in different formats and you can catch on that this can go to a different type of not only the tempo of the beat, but also on a different level of music. So
Bet. No, Flea is dope. CB?
For people that don't know, playing the bass is hard. Like the bass guitar is hard to play. So it's not like you can just be a guitarist and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm just gonna play bass. Like it's just different. So
Yeah.
you got to give credit where credit is due. And this talk about stage presence. Flea's got that in spades,
Oh, yeah.
which
He does.
that's something that I think is important for a stage performer, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. All right. Number 4. I think this is on the honorable mention list, but gotta go with Santana. Santana is my number 4. I think that
Jules,
when you hear
I had to. I just
when you
and this
hear
is a
when you hear
Dipset was in there.
Santana
The
play,
Dipset.
Santana had just a different kind of edginess to his guitar. I mean, you there was a lot of obviously Latin American influence in that. I mean, but he could straight up play anybody's stuff, and just I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like a lot of his earlier stuff was super good, but then like even at an older age when he kind of did the big comeback and he had like the collaborative efforts, he was still playing. Like and you can't just classic all around. You can't really mention guitar playing without Santana. And he's a big influencer on a lot of probably a couple of people within our lists and honorable mentions. But you gotta Santana. Really not much more to say. CBE.
Yeah, obviously he was on my honorable mentions list. I think being able to combine the Latin influences that he had along with the rock and being able to do all that, like definitely an influential figure, like just in the scene. And you talk about his ability to play with other big time acts.
Absolutely.
He had given an interview where he basically was talking about how he had no problem deferring until it was his time. So, if he's playing with a bunch of really talented musicians, he has no problem sitting back and just doing his thing. And then it's like, oh, it's Santana solo time, and then we know what's coming. We're gonna get blown away. So yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
Black Magic. Yeah, exactly. Anything on Santana?
I think I would have liked for him to be, I guess, more. I feel like because he didn't kind of hit that limelight until later on, which not saying that he clearly his pieces that he had prior to, but I think that would have gave me more appreciation for the amount of work that he put in, because like CB said, like I'll wait for my time, or you can tell like he allows everybody to shine, right? But I feel like, as the superstar, you got to kind of, get busy and just be like, I got this. Like, I got this. You know what I'm saying? Like the other 4, on the squad, just I got this. Like, because I feel like if that holds him back from that moment of that creating that piece, you know what I'm saying, at that moment, that but he's definitely dope though. He's definitely a dope artist though.
Absolutely. CB's up next. Okay.
And so I want to preface this, since I had BB King in the 5 spot. It's not really the 5 spot because I told Kaleo I can't actually rank these dudes. Like, there's no reasonable way for me to have spent all the time narrowing it down to 5 and then to actually rank those 5 in order. So I'm kind of doing this in a certain type of progression. So the next guy that's on my list is the legend himself, Jimi Hendrix. When you talk about the influence on stage presence, having a lot of just energy, and we're not even talking about him just lighting guitars on fire or like playing with his teeth. You know what I mean? Like, this dude was just incredible. And, you know, who can shred the Star Spangled Banner better than Jimi Hendrix, you know? So just based off of his influence that he's had, I think that my list would have been incredibly incomplete if he wasn't on there, you know?
I mean, any list without Jimmy is is that a real list? But you know, the thing about the Star Spangled Banner is, if you haven't heard Jimi Hendrix play Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock, it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music you'll probably ever hear. And like, there's a part in, I don't know if a lot of people don't know that the rumor was, or the story is, under Jimmy's headbands was acid. And so when he would start sweating, his pores would open up, and the acid would drip through his pores, and he'd be, you know, high as a kite.
In full Woodstock mode.
In full Woodstock, right? So if you listen to the Star Spangled Banner, there's a part where he just kind of veers off and just starts playing his own thing, but then he brings it back home. But that's when they say the acid kicked in, and he was just to be able to come off and come back in like that. I mean, that's talent. He's scared to when he went. Absolutely.
Yeah, because Hendrix is left-handed. So the fact that he's a left-handed guitarist, like, that also just adds like some craziness to it.
Yeah, and this is if you haven't seen the movie with Andre 3000, who I thought from the very jump was the perfect person to play Jimi Hendrix, because they look very similar. That if you haven't seen that movie, they touch bases on that. And the sad part is that while we haven't gotten a real biopic, because that movie only touches base on Jimmy's time in London, and it was and then the music they were able to play was stuff that can be that's not owned by the state. Mm-hmm. So you haven't gotten a real Jimi Hendrix biopic, is because his estate is in total disarray. No one knows who owns the music. So therefore, you can almost same thing with Bob Marley. I think they finally kind of starting to settle on that, but no one knows who owns Jimi Hendrix music. So you cannot get a proper biopic, which this man deserves. There was one with Wood Harris who did one. I can't remember the music that was played in that. I mean, there may not have been much music, more so dialogue. But if they ever get it, they missed the opportunity with Andre, because Andre's older now. But this story has to be told. There you go, the acid on the music. This story has to be told, though, no matter what. Go for it.
I mean, we can go this could be a whole show about Jimmy. You know what I'm saying? I think what he bodied as far as a guitar is what others practice. Like, I feel like that's, like, you could tell, like, that was just natural. You know what I'm saying? Like, his ability to play the guitar the way that he did was just like, when you get into a certain genre of music, and then not only that, but then you break down the actual instrument, it literally has to be that person's life on. That's what they want to do all day, every day. They don't, minus the partying or maybe doing something on the side. They would rather just play that instrument. And I think that's what he was. Like, he was like, shit, if I don't have to do nothing else, I do this all day, every day.
All right, so for your fourth, number 4, let's talk about it.
This is definitely going to shock some people. I think might shock CB on my list, but
Yeah.
Um, I go with Slash. So here's my here's my affinity for Slash is I always thought that he was hella cool because he was like just the amount of dope, but he was shy to the point where it's like, the hair over the face. Like I can be totally like I think the way that he plays is like the kind of the way that I think a lot of uh people come out to be that, right? Like they just want to if I don't have to be at the show, but I can play backstage just to be playing, like I think he would be that dude, right? Because if you think about it, look at the two difference from my four, like 5 and 4. Flea was definitely super energetic, like you know what I'm saying. The damn bass guitar was bigger than Flea, right? Then you come to like Slash. Slash was like the most mellow dude, but can like go completely bananas on the guitar but had like he just like he centered the whole time. Like he never got out of pocket. He never moved too much. He just sat there, and I think for me it was the look that matched the way that he played the guitar. So
Right. And for the longest time, I didn't know Slash was African American or part African American. Can't how can you tell behind all that damn hair and that hat?
it's the nose.
You can't really tell, right? But yeah, I'll give him. He said I'll give him some props. I mean, he's definitely played some great solos for Guns N' Roses. I mean, hell, he played on Lenny's it wasn't Are You Gonna Go? Always on the Run. He played a solo on Lenny's Always on the Run, and I think that no, is it Mama Said it's one of those. He played a solo for Lenny. Him and Lenny are close, but yeah, he's just an iconic figure. He stood out probably more than Axl Rose. Axl had a good voice, but I think still Slash was the kind of the meat and potatoes of the group.
I think it's interesting because when, like he mentioned, Axel did or Slash didn't need to do too much. He didn't need to be the same type of performer that a guy like Jimi Hendrix was or anything like that because you had Axl Rose who was doing all of that shit. Like he was
Yeah.
crazy on stage. But yeah, I mean, how can you think of Guns N' Roses and not think of Slash when we're talking about some of the most iconic riffs? Especially when we're talking about like arena rock and people jamming out at sporting events and things like that. You're gonna hear Guns N' Roses. Like that's just how it goes. So Slash was on my honorable mentions list. So I got no problem with this at all.
Yep, he did play with Mike as well. Where we at now? We at number three. Number three. And this guy was mentioned earlier, and I'm not gonna come down too hard on where he was mentioned at earlier, but you know, top five automatically, and it was just a matter of where I was gonna put him, but I had to put him here. Stevie Ray Vaughan is my number three of all time, and Stevie could play his ass off. Like it's tragic ending. I mean, helicopter crash, and it seems like right when they get in their lives together, like something always happens. But look, let me tell you, Stevie was the closest thing to Hendrix. Stevie could play Hendrix almost spot on. If you close your eyes and listen to Stevie's version of Little Wing or Stevie's version of Voodoo Child, it's almost spot on. And the only thing that's different is probably the way the guitar is strung, which and Jimmy had a very distinct sound, right? But Stevie was spot on. And then Stevie could give you a song with no lyrics and just all guitar and you feel it to your core. But then he could give some of the fun stuff when he adds his voice. Like he had a very bluesy twang. Like not only could he play, like this guy could sing. And Steve Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble was just one of the baddest groups and just in general, just cross exactly. What we got right here? Clapton said Stevie played emotional guitar. Exactly, because if you listen to Little Wing, Like Little Wing, you don't need lyrics to that. Jimmy sang lyrics in Little Wing. Stevie played the lyrics with the strings, and you almost can hear the song. But yeah, Stevie definitely number three. Again, Taken Too Soon. I would love to see. He's got an interesting story too. I would love to see a biopic or something with Stevie. CBE.
Another one that was on my honorable mentions list. Not enough room for all these guys, but you talk about the meld that he was able to do between blues, jazz, and rock. Like, I mean, you know, it can't say enough. And yeah, another tragedy. And I mean, a helicopter crash, man. Like that is kind of wild how this stuff ends up working out. Like you were saying, it seems like people are starting to like turn things around or whatever, and something like that happens. But the influence that this man had on guitarists that are playing now can't be understated. And he used to get, I mean, depending on who you're talking to, he gets criticized for his playing of Hendrix. But I think that there's no way that in any way it is like detrimental.
Yeah,
You know, if anything, it's him honoring the legacy, and I think that he's good enough to
absolutely,
actually do it. You know what I mean?
absolutely. And I will add real quick, um, and the influence that Stevie had on Mayer is kind of there too, because Mayer comes close to kind of how Stevie plays, and it's just kind of how you can see the generations, the cycle there. Mayer even has an SRV tattooed on his arm, and I think he even has a replica of Stevie's guitar. So like the influence is there, and again, just yeah. E, you got anything on Stevie?
Um, I'm not even gonna lie. I was late to the party,
It's okay.
but I'll tell you, the first time I heard and when I asked who it was and I found out that's who it was, I heard it on vinyl. Out of all places to hear it first, I heard it on vinyl. So that's what caught my ear, was how crisp, how it was just like it automatically caught me. Like I asked the dog, like, who was that? And he was like, oh, this is, and then it got me to listening, and it to that point is why now I'm back to buying. Well, I'm back to buying vinyl, right? And making sure that you hear the crispness of the music. But yeah, I was late to the party, but I definitely am. I appreciate the body of work, though.
Absolutely, absolutely. CB.
333. So who again? Not ranking these dudes. I refuse to rank them. But the third guy that I'm talking about is Mr. Eddie Van Halen. Um, when we're talking about dudes that have influenced, especially the type of music that I like to listen to on the rock side of things, you can't get away from Van Halen's influence. The shredding, like we wouldn't have shredding in metal the same way if it wasn't for Van Halen. Like that's how I feel. So the songs themselves speak for themselves. You can look up the body of work. So many bands wanted to be Van Halen. You know what I mean? So I don't think that there's too much to Eruption. The tapping is just insane, man. Like you listen to some of the stuff that these guys were doing that other people just were not doing at the time. Like it's amazing. So yeah, you can't, in my opinion, there was a couple guys that were surefire. Yeah, these guys will be in my top five. Van Halen was one of those guys for sure. Him, BB King, and Jimmy for sure. The three that I talked about first, like those were the easy choices for me, relatively. So yeah, I knew Van Halen was going to be on my list one way or another.
Right, and he built his own guitars.
He was, well, one of the things that's amazing is the style, the body style of the guitar that he was playing. They like traditionally had different pickups in them, and so what made him unique, and you talking about him putting, like, building his own guitars, he would put different style pickups, what are basically called like humbucker pickups nowadays. Like he would put those, which are normally in a traditional guitar style body, he would put those on that kind of like Stratocaster look guitar. And so he was getting, it was a unique sound because of that, that's incredible, man. Like just to think, oh yeah, well let's mess around and do it this way.
Yep.
You can't get away from that. And what's wild is in music today, I was watching this interview with some music YouTuber guy, and he was talking about how for Van Halen, like we think about the way that he would play, and that's like it's like standard now for it to be like that. He was the first one to do it,
Yep.
like it's crazy.
Yep. For those who don't know, Eddie also played on Michael Jackson's "Beat It." He's not the riff. He's not the main guitar you hear in the beginning. He's the wild, crazy guitar that comes in at the end. It almost sounds like a chainsaw. And then real quick, the story is behind that. When Quincy was doing the song, he wanted that guitar, and I don't know if it was him or Mike that wanted Eddie to play on the song. So they called Eddie, and Eddie answers the phone and he says, "Hey, it's Quincy Jones," and he hung up on him. He didn't believe that Quincy Jones was calling him. And then he called back, and the rest is history. There's a couple other nuances to that story, but yeah. So Eddie could play, and he played loud, but definitely if you never heard of Eddie Van Halen, you've at least heard Michael Jackson's "Beat It," and he plays at the very end. And again, I can tie this back to John Mayer. John Mayer actually played Eddie's part on the remake of "Beat It" when Fall Out Boy did it. And I think in the video he has a guitar in homage of Eddie Van Halen. So just little things that I know. All right, E, come with it with number 3.
Well, somebody on this panel is going to appreciate the next person that I put on my list. I'll say like CB. I'm not gonna rank them because that would be that's not doing justice to how dope that these individuals are. But my next person is none other than Prince Rogers Nelson. And let me tell you that Cleo, you could actually help me out with this one. Okay. DC concert, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that I believe you went to that same concert.
Oh yeah, I'm sure if it's DC, I'm there.
We were at the same concert. Just it didn't find out till like later on that we both actually went to the concert, right? Yep. But if I know you remember vividly that concert, but just like anyone, anybody who plays the guitar like he does, and that could perform the act of putting that shit to rest and laying a damn cloth or anything over top of it because he knows damn well that I just killed this shit. Put that shit to bed. Like, yeah. I still have yet to get over the fact that I was able to witness that in person, and that wholeheartedly probably is the best when it comes to the performance of the different instruments. But the simple fact that when he got on the guitar, though, everybody knew what was about to go down. Like, you knew it. And let's just put it out there. The dope way that he put the cymbal on the guitar made everybody be like,
"Yep." I mean,
what else can this?
Solos is Purple Rain. Everybody, when you go see him live, you want to hear the Purple Rain solo. I mean, to the point where he cut out. For years, he cut out the middle verses of Purple Rain and just got straight to the solo. It would play a 5 to 6 minute solo. Every guitar said it was playing was that look. We'll get but yeah, no, I agree with you, E. If Prince isn't, somebody's influence. I mean, a lot of these young cats influence, and he gets a lot of props. And the rumor was that someone had asked Eric Clapton in an interview, and I don't know at this point if it's still true or not, but asked Eric Clapton in an interview, what's it like to be, the best guitarist of all time? He says, I don't know. Go talk to Prince. So, even like guys like out there like that, still give him his props. CB, you got anything?
I mean, I was really just gonna see between me and E who was gonna make this joke first. That the whole point of us even having this episode was so we could fit more Prince in. So, like, so I didn't have spoiler alert, Prince isn't in my top 5, and they didn't put him in my honorable mentions because I knew we were gonna be talking about him. It goes without saying. He is one of those guys that I think some people forget. They just think about him as a performer in general. They forget that he is a beast on guitar, So you can't go wrong with that, man. Like I said, this coming up with this was such an exercise that this was easy for me to leave off because I knew we were going to be talking about him. There's no way, we're not escaping it.
Right.
Well, not only that, but me and CB wanted to be on the next show next week, so we knew. Like he said, it was. We didn't even talk about it, but I just knew. You know what? I'll throw him on my list because CB wasn't here last week, so we just want to be here.
I ain't like that. So my number 2. I mean, where could I go wrong? My number 2 is Jimi Hendrix. I mean, I got the shirt on, and I was. I said earlier, just when you go back to listen, you can listen to Jimmy, and you can hear just like, and I don't want to use the word pain, like you can hear the pain in his music, but that guy, he could just straight out play, and on top of that, his voice is very distinct. Like you're not going to get Jimi Hendrix's voice mixed up with anybody else's. You're not going to get his playing style mixed up. I mean, again, Stevie Ray Vaughan, perhaps. His playing style with anybody else. And just at the time that he was in, the guy, I mean, he said he would, it could have been drugs talking now, but he said he would be literally waking out of his dreams with music. And he woke up and wrote music, played music. And it's just a shame that the estate is not settled so you can get like a true biopic. There are some good books out there, but let's be honest, a lot of people don't read. Reading isn't fun to people. They need to see it, to see the visuals. That's just being real. But now, again, there's not much I haven't already said about Jimmy, but Jimmy definitely, I think one of my own, I wish I could have seen Jimmy live, right? I wish I could have seen Stevie Ray live. But these guys, again, Jimmy's part of, what is it, 27 Club?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, part of 27 Club. But that's all they did back then was heavy drugs and music. So you're not gonna last you're not gonna last very long like that. CB.
So before I jump into my next one, just to add a little bit more to Jimmy, I think that it's funny because in sports, for example, we look down upon athletes and stuff for taking performance enhancing drugs. You know what I mean? But in the realm of music, it's like it's actually glorified. Think about any of these bands, any of them, literally any of them. Like drugs are involved in some capacity. Like
Olympics, you couldn't have a music Olympics.
No, I mean, if you tested sober, you'd be kicked out. Like that's how that will work. You know what I mean? So when we go back and we're talking about some of the greatest bands of all time, when we're talking about people that are on like almost everyone's list, like when people talk about like the Beatles and the Who and all these bands going back, like drugs were heavily involved. So did like the drugs, did they make someone like Jimi Hendrix? No. But did they help probably just bring out some of that creativity? Yeah. Maybe. But I'm glad that we got what we got from him, So
just on you, CB.
Yeah, so my second guy here, second to last guy, is Dimebag Darrell. So we're gonna switch into me transitioning into just more of the influences of like my metal side. And so had to have Dimebag after Eddie, because Eddie was a huge influence for Dimebag Darrell. And when Pantera was doing their thing, he was a big reason why. You can't have modern day metal without Dimebag Darrell. So I'm not going to say that technically he belongs necessarily in anybody's top 5, like that's up for debate. But in terms of his influence and his impact, and another guy that was taken from us too soon, he was a guy that I thought deserved to be on the list. So Dimebag Darrell was definitely someone who I was going to include.
Yeah. Not too up on what he did outside of Pantera. I'm sure he's done some other stuff, but yeah. I've listened to some metal before. I mean, the Slipknots and all those guys. And the guy could play. And I think I can't remember how he passed. Was it the OD?
So he was in the band that he played in after Pantera was called Damage Plan, and he was touring with Damage Plan, and it was like some crazed fan came up on stage and shot him.
That's
like,
what it was. Yeah.
Like it was like some insane story where it's like where the term fan comes from, fanatic. Like it was literally like a crazy person who was just such a huge fan. Like I don't know how it gets to that point where you're such a huge fan that you have to like shoot this person and kill him.
Right.
It's kind of weird.
That's. I remember his end was tragic, and I just couldn't remember. Now you said it, he did get shot. But yeah, I have to give it a listen. That's why another reason why I did this, because what we all have different tastes in music when it comes to certain things, So I'll definitely have to go back and give it another year or two just to hear the musicianship.
It's the riffs. That's what you'll need to listen to. Is just for that, because that's him.
Definitely awesome.
So here's how I actually came across this cat. YouTube, they have the like metalheads listen to rap, right? Mm-hmm. So I literally flopped it, right? I went and checked some out where it was like rap heads listen to metal, and this like he came up, and I was just like, it's wild because when you listen to it for the first time, and as the older you get of the appreciation of music and how it's put down, right? Then and you hear other people, you start to hear, like you said, the influences, but then you hear like their subtle way of, this is what puts me aside, or this is my groove. That's where I kind of came across, man. So it took me a while, not even gonna lie, because it's tough to get the ear to it. But again, I felt like that was the best setting, was how you have the flip flop of hip hop listening to metal listening to hip hop, and when they're musicians themselves and they talk about hearing the music and how it almost the transitions, you can still like almost piece music together from almost anywhere. Like that's just the way that it is. So I appreciate it for that. But I'm definitely gonna just say this for my number 2. Somebody who I feel like everybody stole their shit from. Right? If you want to talk about the most, tell me that I'm cool. Tell me that I'm cool. Tell me that you can't tell me shit, right? I can be like everything on this stage and then some. I can make your mom get up. I can make your daddy get up, your sister, your brother, and I'm just that nice with it, right? Like I feel like Chuck was definitely that in your face, like I like this shit so much that you're gonna like this shit so much. That's every time I see him, like regardless, bro, like the way that he manages the stage is, I got a show for you. I'm also the people who are really in tune to the music. You can listen to how I'm about to put this together, and then at the same time, I look good doing it.
Yeah, now, like talking about like the founder, almost godfather of rock and roll. He definitely, in the times that, I'm assuming it was all still segregated, right? He's playing for a lot of these, white kids, Yeah, and they're all
And they were loving that shit.
right. And they're loving that shit. They're eating it up. They're dancing on the floor because the black people still at the top of the rafters. They really couldn't. They were dancing like on on the steps. But he was godfather of rock and roll. Influenced a lot of people, and I mean, not much you can't. I mean, just to kind of find a genre of music that hadn't really necessarily been there before. You definitely have to go with Chuck Berry.
I mean, this was someone who influenced BB King. So it was one of the, like, again, another guy that was on my honorable mentions list. And just because I wanted to add a little bit of spice to the guys I was going to talk about, I had to move Chuck to the honorable mentions list, because otherwise I felt like I had to choose between him and BB King for that spot, just because BB King was also so influenced by Chuck Berry. And I mean, you talk about bravado and stage presence, like, he was the man. He really was the man. So you're right. Like, you could look at him as like the godfather of rock and roll. You could.
And Mos Def played him in was that Cadillac Record? One of those movies he played him. Okay. We're here now, number one. And spoiler alert, shocker, my number one is not Prince. You guys don't know me at all. Don't know me at all. My number one, and he's already been mentioned, but you cannot talk about guitar playing. What is this? Yep, exactly. When Marty McFly played the guitar, and Marty went back to the future and found it rock and roll. That was funny. That was funny. My number one
cousin Marvin
Barry. Marvin Barry. My number was the commentary. Look, my mom's even shocked. My number one is not Prince at all. My number one is Dimebag Darrell. No, I'm just fucking with you. My number one is Prince.
Of course.
Everybody knew that. Again, let me tell you this. Musicianship. Probably seen Prince about 10 times. Every show is different. No matter what. Like, he could do 2 back-to-back shows, and the first show and the second show are very much different. He could have the same set list and play 2 different versions of each song. But again, but no, seriously, and it has a lot. Look, with my musical ear, definitely has something to do with my parents and pops for sure, and my mom. But yeah, no. What can I say? Like, this biopic needs to happen. I don't know if it'd ever be done right, because there's so much to tell. I mean, I know we're talking about guitar, but this guy could play everything else. I think up to 19 instruments. I think that's what the number was, if not more. But yeah, like some of his most classic solos or performances. I mean, we have the Super Bowl. That stands out. A lot of people still rank the Super Bowl high as probably the best performance, of all Super Bowl performances. And you can play that on repeat every year and not have to worry about booking anybody else. And just from, again, he can give you acoustic, he can give you electric. And who should play? That's a good question. I don't know. It'd have to be somebody that's not already established. It'd have to be just somebody that, from the street, or just that no one. You probably have to go to Broadway, because you probably
I was about to say, you think your boy Miguel could play him?
Perhaps, but I maybe.
I can see from the look perspective Miguel pulling that off.
Yeah.
And he's a musician, so I feel like he can tap into it just a little bit better than anybody else that would just be off the streets.
He's played Prince music live on like BET before. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that's my number one. Shouldn't come into shock. I mean, again, Pops brought it up earlier. Like, one of the best solo performances you can probably see was While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Go figure. When he's inducted to the Hall of Fame. But I won't go on and on and on, because we got more show to do. So who's up next? CB. Who we got in this spot right here?
Okay, so the last dude I'm going to talk about is one that you guys might not ever have heard of, but I know Kaleo and E that y'all have heard him play before.
Okay.
So I'm talking about, and this is, because they go by their stage name and everything. So Sinister Gates, who is one of the lead guitars for Avenged Sevenfold. So when I was getting into high school, I got put on to these guys, and from a metal music standpoint, like it was something that I had not listened to before. So, and I got instantly hooked on it. And so I knew that this band had made it because they were on Madden 2004, which has Michael Vick on the cover. Everyone played that game. I know. So when Chapter 4 comes on, which is still to this day my favorite song by Avenged Sevenfold, which when I saw that was the joint that they were putting on Madden, I was like, dude, this is crazy. I can just have this on repeat the entire time. But then they also did Backcountry, which was on Madden 2006, which had Donovan McNabb on the cover. So for people that are like, Sinister Gates, who, if you play Madden, and you played Madden during the glory years, the golden age of Madden, you heard these guys, and you heard this dude shredding while you're, probably whipping the computer's ass on all Madden. You know what I mean? So, in terms of playing like a more modern, like this dude's he's not even 40 yet. I think he's like 39. So he's younger compared to the other guys that I knew we were going to be talking about. And at least for me personally, like he had an impact on like my musical tastes growing up. So I felt like I had to. He was a dude to spice my list up, because I'm like, you guys also might not know, but you have heard him before. So that was my way of working him in.
No, look, I think you provide a 5 that a lot of people haven't given spotlight to, and after this, hopefully, people will go back and revisit Madden, or just revisit. That's where I remember when I just looked them up. First couple things that popped up were the Madden. So, and I remember those songs. So, but yeah, this makes me interested to see, go back and listen to some of these guys' music just to hear them play. So, you've gained my ear. I'm interested.
We've already talked about them so much that I don't know if there's not much to say. My number one is Jimmy.
Absolutely.
But I can hear Jimmy.
Why they can't jump? Okay.
Now you know what? I have I take into a liking to artists that almost seem like as soon as they get out of bed, they can play whatever instrument as if they don't even need to wake up. Like it's second nature. Jimmy was music. And I think that he bodied that. Purple Haze still to this day is one of my favorites. And again, I say it again, and this is just for us, right? That I feel like, I think we should take advantage of the vinyl. You know what I'm saying? Listening to these cats that we're discussing, I feel like it hit different listening to the crisp way that the music, was coming across way back then. But understand, man, I feel like this dude embodied everything that everybody that's an artist now is doing and wants to do, which is be outrageous, just want to play my music. You want to be left alone, but you want to like bring me into this limelight. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like I can leave everybody in awe if you just let me do my thing. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's the way that he's always been. And I feel like I wonder if he gets more of a bad rap because of his drug abuse.
I think that just adds to the story. I mean,
but what CB said, right? Like as far as like we glorify that, like his acid stuff, right? Like the acid, the drugs. I kind of play that through my mind that we lost. So we always talk about losing artists too soon. We also talk about in the manner that it happens, whether it was, like the cat that you said that died in a plane crash or whatever, like, you know what I'm saying? La Bamba, like Richie Valens out here, you know what I'm saying? Like the plane crash, Buddy Holly, all the rest of it. So, it's not so much that I feel like, because when they talk about them, listen to the light that they give them when they say because of how they died compared to somebody who's on the drug use. Because then what we say is we don't know how much we missed if they weren't on the drugs, right? But again, we know that sometimes that's even more of a enhancement of their artistic side. You know what I mean? So it kind of goes hand in hand. It's one of those things where, let's just be honest, it would probably trip us out if Jimmy was straight, did not have any drug abuse whatsoever, right? Could you imagine Jimi Hendrix without the drug abuse, right?
And I'm sure there's like a lot of his earlier stuff was probably like before a lot of the heavy use, but maybe it wasn't. But let me tell you what, like we know the drugs and alcohol was heavy back then. That was the influence, and it was tragic to lose them the way we did in the overdose. But let me tell you this: if you get somebody that does that much drugs and they stick around to this day, you get Ozzy Osbourne, and you don't want that. You don't want to see a Jimi Hendrix and what he represented walking around in that sad state of affair like Ozzy Osbourne.
That's a lot of like that's just a lot to put on your body,
Oh,
for a
without
long
question.
time. So like it makes sense. And it is like like you were mentioning, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because it's like, yo, we're to some degree you know like shining light and giving and like praising them, but at the other time it's like, yo, but what could it have been if they didn't have these demons that they were fighting?
I mean, real quick, and one of my things I mentioned, was that funk. I mean, this is an example. If you're not hitting a solo like this with these faces, you're not in my top five. Like if I'm not feeling that note that you hit, you're not. This is what it is right here.
All these dudes are one with that guitar.
Yeah, I mean it's that moment, and it's that moment. All right, it's that point of the show.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to mention one of my honorable mentions that I did not put in there is a young kid. I caught him on IG, but he's been covering a lot of people, and I think he's like 9 years old. Huh?
Oh no, young. Oh, okay. I was about to say.
I think it's, like his first name is Aaron, but he did one with like Kurt Franklin and it blew up. He did like one of his songs, but you talk about the stank face. The fact that he's that young and realizes that when he makes that face is when he's in his bag. As a 9-year-old that figures that out already, he's gonna be tough when he gets older, for real.
Right.
Okay. So, Pops, real quick, let me just tell you this: you missed two good ones 2 weeks in a row. You missed two really good ones. But go ahead, E. Let's go for it.
Um, I think this is just an age-old battle of good versus evil. Who actually takes time to enjoy breakfast? But in the sense that one of them reigns supreme over it can be at any time of day. And ultimately, instead of me just saying what I agree to or what I think, this is a versus today. The versus is waffles versus pancakes. All right. Now, I know the peanut gallery is definitely going to chime in with what they feel is better. But ultimately, this is the first week that I'm going to say this with confidence. Fuck you all too. It's about the waffles. Yes. Shout out to Mike with the name he just posted. Yeah,
Aaron the basis. Nice.
So look, I'm gonna lead off here. This is tough.
It's not tough. This is not tough.
It is tough because
this is not tough.
The waffles in this picture look very delicious, but I think from the jump, I've always been a pancake guy because there's International House of Pancakes. It's not International House of Waffles.
But there's a Waffle House.
There's a Waffle House.
Come on. I'm listening.
But I think that I think my earliest memories were on pancakes, and I think you get more pancakes for your buck.
Really?
You can go to IHOP and get a short stack or a full stack and get 6 pancakes. You can't go to IHOP and get a tall stack of waffles and get more than one.
Well, because if you look at it, your 6 pancakes equals up maybe just 2, maybe 2 waffles. But again,
these are different waffles right here.
That's a Belgian waffle. Like if you're not eating, if you talking about Eggos, then I mean that's your fault.
You can't be comparing Eggos to like even just making pancakes because there's no equivalent to like a freezer pancake.
And I feel like waffles are more a special occasion thing because you need a waffle maker to make waffles. Pancakes you can make in a saute pan. You can make it in a frying pan. You can make
It's the same amount of products that you have to use for both. What are you talking about here?
Not necessarily. You need eggs and oil for waffles to stick. Pancakes, you can just add water to the mix.
And that's why this shit is trash. Just because I was waiting for somebody else to say it, and that's why they're trash. No, minus you putting the syrup on it, they're trash. What are you tasting? What are you really tasting out of it?
I'm not saying that waffles are that much less than pan. I'm just going. This is like picking, who your favorite kid is, and I can't answer that.
All right, CB, where you at with this?
CB, where you at?
Y'all giving me tough shit today, man. Literally, I have to pick 5 guitarists. Now you're making me choose between waffles and pancakes. But here's the thing: it actually isn't that tough for me. I am team waffles when it comes to this.
French toast. I told him I had French toast.
I mean, the thing with because French toast is legit. But when we're talking about waffles versus pancakes, when I think about pancakes, I actually visualize myself eating birthday cake for breakfast. Like that's what I think that I'm doing because the way that I eat my pancakes is they got all the chocolate chips in them and there's whipped cream everywhere, syrup everywhere. Like that's what it is. Waffles, and this is really how you know for me, waffles is the choice because I got excited that I bought a waffle maker the other week. Because literally I went, we're doing this 10-miler training, right? For this 10-miler we're supposed to run. So we run, we're doing a 5K. We're just time trialing a 5K. And we got rewarded because 2 of the 3 of us didn't want to do this. But we got rewarded because we went back to my buddy's place and his wife made us brunch, including these waffles that were ridiculous. I've never said that about a pancake in my life. So that's what changes it for me. Like it's waffles. It's waffles.
Got you.
Bro, how can you debate little pockets of syrup and butter like in every bite? Like what are we talking about here? Chicken and waffles. Like what
right.
do you put with pancakes? Pancakes has never gotten a add-on.
Pancakes and sausage. Look, I'm not gonna.
Wow, that's what it stands on.
It's a very close, but I just know
it's not close.
To me are a special occasion type thing, which doesn't make them bad. It's just pancakes are more accessible at some certain point.
You just need a waffle maker. I swear you were changing
I got a waffle maker. Got a really good one too.
That you don't use.
I think that's good enough. All right. Invite to the barbecue. We talked about the barbecue beforehand. Where we at? Let's just get back on track. Here we go, right here. CB.
Let me unmute myself.
There you
For Soul Swap this week, Sneakers released like tips this week on how to get a better shot at exclusive access, because it was not actually how to do it. It was basically yeah, if you like try some of this stuff, like you can do these things, but it's still not a guarantee. You know what I mean? So I think it was funny because obviously, you know, we follow all these sneaker Twitter accounts, Instagram accounts, all these different platforms, and you know, getting direct emails from the shops and all that kind of stuff. We do all this, right? And when it comes to the sneakers app, we routinely like to talk about the L's that we're taking. And so it's just kind of funny because I have not really gotten a true dub on the sneakers app this year. Like you know, I got a pair of the Griffies, those royal blue Griffies, which, you know, yes, they're a dope ass shoe, but they're not a pair of Dunks that are going for $1,000 that other people are scoring on. You know what I mean? So it's funny that I've actually gotten exclusive access twice from sneakers, and like it is kind of wild because yeah, me being more active on the app, me like when they're doing like these live streams, just chiming in and seeing what's going on. That's like some of the stuff that they were talking about in their little release that they said. But I just want to get your guys' take on, you know, them even coming out here and, you know, giving these tips basically to, oh, this is how you can get exclusive access, maybe. It just seemed like somewhat of a troll to me, you know? Like I just felt like they're kind of rubbing it in my face.
Yeah, it's definitely a troll. I mean, the fact that they're aware of
Yes.
these issues. I mean, why not make more product first of all? They're not. I mean, this is
Right.
going to drive the sneaker market up. Obviously, supply and demand, right? But the fact that you're aware of these issues, you come out with it. Yeah, man, look, it just means that you don't really care. You don't care at all. And then I don't need to give me. And at first, when I first saw this, I thought it was, oh, now they're gonna. It makes sense. They're gonna have a paid subscription to get early. But you know, you're not gonna beat bots because they'll just pay to get in there too. Again, the fact that you're aware of the issue.
It's complete bullshit, to be honest with you. Let's just put it out there. It's what all of us are thinking, right? Because when we saw it, we were like, oh, wait, no, this is the same shit that you've already told us before, and it still has not equated to a W, right? It's still L all day, every day, right? And the fact is, as the sneakerhead community, we talk about it. We almost tell each other to get on the app, go look at the shit, like it, do all of that, scroll on there. And then the funny shit is when we don't want the shoe, we get the shit. And we didn't even put in the effort to get the fucking shoe, but we get it anyway.
Been there, done that.
That's why it pisses us off even more that they would release this bullshit as if like we didn't know about it.
Dog, and the way that when that happens, when you score the joint that you weren't really about, you're like, yo, this has just fucked me up for getting the one that I really wanted.
Exactly.
Like, damn.
Exactly. According to the algorithm, oh, you won last week, you're not going to win this week.
Right, because, you know, we're not the ones that are posting W's every weekend for every drop. You know, who, like, those are the people that are getting the back room handouts from Trophy Room and shit.
See me what we got for that copper drop this week.
All right, so copper drop this week. These are I wanted to talk about these because they got delayed for obvious reasons. But these are the Nike Air Force One. They're calling them the Postal Ghosts, and as you can see, they are stylized very similarly to how a USPS box or slip looks, right?
Yep.
And this is not a sponsored collaboration or anything, which that honestly would probably be a better move since the Postal Service needs the money, because who's buying stamps anymore and sending mail like that? But the shoe has some interesting details, like the upper looks like it's been vacuum sealed, which is kind of wild. And obviously you got just the fact that it looks like, you know, you're wearing something that you bought at the Postal Service. So for me, I think it's a very interesting shoe. I'm not interested in copying it, but the fact that they had to go through, they had to delay the release because the Postal Service was like, nah, bro, hold on. And now they patched, I don't know what agreement they came to or whatever, but there was news that Nike and the Postal Service patched everything up and they were going to be able to release them. So they are supposed to drop next week on the 14th. They're supposed to be $130. I'm not pressed for them. But I do think it's an interesting shoe. But in general, y'all know me. I don't have. I'm not a huge rocker of the Air Force One. I just don't own a lot of pairs. So I would probably choose just a pair of fresh whites for me over these. But that's just me. What's y'all's take?
I would like to see him in person. It's a drop though, but I would like to see him in person. I think I had my phases with Air Force Ones. I mean, the yellow ones, they're kind of like the they're not off white, but the yellow ones are kind of patchy that are kind of hitting the markets. Do interest me. I mean, I like the colors, but I passed my Air Force One phase because of the creases. The creases on Air Force Ones are ridiculous, and I'm assuming that I would love to see the packaging for this. I'm assuming it's probably coming in a priority box like it is but I just want to see him in person.
Before E gives his take real quick, something that's funny is apparently like these are being shipped out by like FedEx or UPS. Like they're not even being shipped using the Postal Service. So that's something that I read. I don't know if that's true or not, but that is hilarious if it's true.
Wow. E, what you got?
Yeah, no, these are a fucking drop. Like let's just get it out there. Like like I'll say it. That's what you guys want to say. Like this is a fucking drop. Like I think if they wouldn't have made a big deal about them, right? And then the fact that, you know, they had to kind of go through litigation, like, or, you know, this is what's going to happen. But I think they tried too hard on this one. You know what I'm saying? Like this could have been done differently. I'm not spending my money on this shit when there's a bunch of StockX that I'm waiting for the price to drop. So let's go.
Right.
I got you. All right, let's do this. Hold on. Where's the shoe and tail? Let's get the little graphic up. So we got a dial-in shoe and tail. Let's start with this one. So we got we got my brother Matthew here, and he's got those. Look, first of all, the ones in the middle. CV, what are those? Refresh me real quick.
Those are the acronym Prestos. But this is from the second round that they did, because they did. They've done 2 different collabs with Nike for the Prestos.
Right.
And this was, I think they did these in like 2017 or 2018. But either way, those are freaking fire. You know, I love those.
Yeah, no, definitely. I wanted a pair of those, couldn't get them. But then also like the Chucks, the what he's holding on the split ends of the thing, Chucks, and I'd seen them floating around. Didn't see this colorway necessarily. I did see
those are fire.
The black and white.
Those are.
Now that I've seen them, I actually do like them. So yeah, no, that's shout out to Matt. Those are dope. Yeah, no.
And I actually wore my Prestos, those exact ones, when we went and saw Travis Scott.
I remember that. All right, E, you up first?
Yeah. FYI, I'm mad that I also did miss the Wolfgang Converse. Them hoes sold out faster than I'll leave that last part out. But
Tyler got a pair of high tops that just released.
So I'm going here. Since Pops is on the line, hopefully he's still on the line. These are the ones that I definitely thought got away from me, and I made sure the fuck they did not. And when I say I made sure that these motherfuckers was coming home with me, look, these shits are so hard. Like this by far is probably the dopest Jordan golf shoe that he has come out with. That beyond the 11, like this shit is so hard. The material is crazy on this, and you can't beat the fact that these are the Torrey Pines. And yeah, my game probably it still sucks, but I guarantee you, I'm gonna get at least 1 or 2 shots off of the game strictly by just wearing these.
Right.
Yeah, these I had to. I was so upset when Nike did what they did.
I still don't even know what happened because it was
No
like
one knows. Hey, that
like
was just a
every
weird
place that I
event.
looked for the drop, it
Yeah.
didn't exist. Like it went away. I was like,
That was
what
a
are they
weird
doing
drop.
here?
And I would say, like, look, I would definitely put tape all on the bottoms of those to even the shoe I wear them to the movies at the mall.
It was a dope colorway.
Don't come back to the clubhouse. Matching bowlers.
It's all right. I'm gonna look fly doing all of the above.
Right.
I kind of alluded to CB. Remember we had that Lexus and Toyota kind of conversation,
Right.
And it's kind of sticking to the theme of what's been going on tonight. So I'm gonna show you this box, and just I saw them a long time ago, and I knew I had to get my hands on a pair of them.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
if you don't know this box, it is the Como des Garçons Chucks.
Cannot go wrong with those. Yeah, the Comme des Garçons play, man. That heart logo with the eyes is iconic now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
those are so fresh.
yeah, man. So, and on the inside, nothing special on the inside, just the.
Yep.
But, yep, that's me. All right, CB.
All right. So, because I missed last week, thank you, Mother Nature. I had like I still like, because I've been buying a lot of shit. Y'all know, I've been telling you. But these showed up today, and I was like, yeah, I have to show these off. I cannot wait to show these off. So some of the heat that I've been holding on to, I was like, yo.
I don't know.
So just look at the box. Look at this box. You see the MB on there?
Yeah.
And then, so Salah Bembry of is it Louis Vuitton fame? The Water Be the Guide, 2002 Rs. This suede on here is ridiculous. Like this is crazy. This leather up here is stupid. Like everything. They got the extra laces. We got it's like a green.
Those. Yeah, I'm rocking those.
Green and like it's like, because this is kind of like a pink, like tannish color in the middle here, and that's what these other laces are. And so I'm gonna end up switching the laces up at one point, but I have to spray these down before I take them outside because yeah, the materials are just crazy and the details are insane. So I'm blown that, because y'all remember it was a copper drop when the burnt orange pair came out. Yep. Like when the burnt orange pair came out, we profiled those on copper drop, and the resale on those is stupid. So the fact that I was glad I was able to get these for a price that I was comfortable with. So
Quintapo's been begging for us.
What's the bottom? My bad. Okay.
It's a classic, like a standard New Balance 2002 bottom, but it's cool because they got like speckles on the midsole. I don't know if it comes through in the on the webcam, but jeez, bro, and like when I tell you that this is soft, like without me having even put it on yet, like we already know that New Balance makes high quality stuff, and when they're doing collaborations like this, it's on another level, man.
So Quintapo's been begging for us to do a shoe and tell on how to protect our shoes because he's got those sunflower seeds. But yeah, so what would you recommend for that? What are the 2 cleaners that he should do, or sprayers he should do, or whatever? I mean, it doesn't have to be 2. What do you suggest? Well,
it's funny that you bring up 2 because there's only 2 that I really have used and thought that they did what they advertised that they do, and that's Reshoevn8r and that's the Rust-Oleum Never Wet. So
now Quintapo, I believe I told you that in the conversation earlier today. So to be just verified.
I mean,
Holla at somebody.
I used to actually have because I sprayed some shoes recently. I think it's upstairs, but normally I actually have a bottle of Never Wet that's down here in the man cave because this is also where my overstock is of all my sneakers. So spray them down and keep them down here. But yeah, Resjuvenator. If you go to their IG page and you look at the videos that they post of them pouring like chocolate syrup and it just rolling off, like that shit is real. That shit is actually real. And it does give you anxiety. But I was like, yo, I need that shit. Like whatever that is. And the thing is like it works. It's just that Resjuvenator can be more expensive, and unless you're like E and you live on the West Coast,
motherfuckers,
the shipping to the East Coast is fucking crazy. So the last set of Resjuvenator stuff that I bought was actually, it was like double the price because of the shipping. And so the Rust-Oleum, I think it works basically just as good, and it's a little bit easier to find. And you can like Amazon Prime it and it'll be there. So
motherfuckers.
Maybe on a Soul Tales, we'll explain, what we can do that. But look, we want to thank everybody for watching. Before we get out of here, DC Shop Pie, look.
Yes.
10% off. WRC 10. Save 10% on delicious Chicago-style deep dish pizza. Now, some things have changed. Tomorrow was supposed to be the grand opening. They have another issue with the inspection, but what they're going to do, the first weekend in August is the grand opening. It will be. So they'll get through all of July. They can still have their soft opening somewhere in there once they pass inspection. But the big grand opening will be in August, first weekend in August. I don't know if it's going to be Saturday or Sunday, but they're going to make it happen. Shout out to Grant. Shout out to all you guys for watching and listening. And like and subscribe, all that good stuff. But look, I want to leave with something special tonight. So we talked about, top 5 guitarists of all times. And this was mentioned more than once on the show tonight. And Pops mentioned that he brought it up. I hope you're still watching, Pops. If anybody has never been taking a school before, a master classing of guitaring or soloing, what's this right here? Boots. Holla at Quatapo about Boots, Pops. If you haven't been in a classroom, a master class, there you go.